There is a new open house visitor form released by CAR in July. It's just one page for open house visitors. Some brokers may require this. I personally will not require it, and I'll explain why and why I would use something else if I were hosting an open house and seeking to adopt new buyer clients, because open houses are about to get much more valuable for finding buyer clients. And the reason is that one of the two major changes from the NAR settlement has to do with buyer representation. So of course, one major change is that buyer's agent commissions disappearing from the MLS, no more cooperating broker compensation. But the other is that buyers have to sign a representation agreement. Well, some buyers are going to be intimidated by that or put that off and be skittish and for whatever reason go to open houses without an agent. So it creates an opportunity for you to meet a buyer in person and win them over and adopt them as a client. How will you do it? Will you use this form? I'll go through this quickly here. It's just one page, so I'll skim it rather than read it word for word, but it basically is just stating the obvious, quite frankly. That's why I'm not a huge fan of it. There's nothing wrong with this form, of course. I'm just telling you that I have a different preference, and I'll share with you right after I skim through here. So it states that there's a visitor that wants to view the property, obviously, and that the agent hosting the open house does not represent the visitor, because this is just erring on the side of caution, since there's a new requirement that a realtor must have a signed representation agreement before they enter a property, before a property is accessed for a tour. So it's saying that they're not doing a violation. They don't represent the visitor. And if they communicate with the visitor, it's just for the benefit of the seller. Of course, the agent at the open house is there on behalf of, as a representative of the seller. So of course, as a fiduciary, they're going to furnish the prospective buyer with any information. And that communication is not private. That agent can share it with their seller client. But if the visitor wants to write an offer, well, the agent will disclose if they in fact represent the seller in addition to the buyer, or whomever they represent will be disclosed. And if this visitor just wants representation right then and there, well, they can sign one of these two forms, PSRA or BRBC, and elect or contract to have that agent act as their representative. Then the visitor is going to fill this out down here. Now, the thing is that does someone wandering an open house want to fill this form out? Probably not, because they're probably going to ask, okay, this just basically states all the obvious. You're not my representative. I've never met you. I have no representative. I just wandered in here. I saw this on an app on my phone, and it's Saturday afternoon, so I wandered in. Why are we putting the obvious in writing? That would be, I think, the reaction of a lot of visitors. Now, of course, if you can incorporate this form in some sort of presentation where you win them over and you give this little backstory and crack a joke or something and have the buyer sign it for whatever reason, then by all means, go for it. I personally would not use this just because, why bother sticking something like this in their face if it is virtually meaningless? It's not like you're going to be accused of representing a person that wanders into your open house and penalized for it as some sort of violation. I would probably make my own form. Okay, now, excuse the raw and rudimentary formatting of this, but I just typed this up as an example. I would create this, but I'd put it on a PDF with the letterhead. I would do something like this. Now, remember, everyone has their own sign-in books and all the registries and all the stuff people have used over the years just to get buyer leads. Technically, do you have to have a buyer sign anything? No, but remember, you're taking advantage of the opportunity of hosting an open house to meet them and win them over so that they feel like they need you if they want to write an offer. If they want to write an offer on that listing, they want to hire you to represent their best interest because you're so knowledgeable. You're going to look out for them. In fact, they like you so much, they'll have you write an offer on the other property they tour that day. That's the idea. I would put something like this that's very basic. Now, this is just absurdly basic. Why? Because I don't want to inundate people with this. This already is such a turnoff. You put something like this, I'll explain the logic. because just make your own. Take whatever idea you want from all this and then make your own. Visitor name, email, okay? You're having a lead opt-in, right? Unrepresented, I would put a checkbox. I would export this, probably put it on a PDF with letterhead, clean it up, make it pretty. Unrepresented, and I'd make a checkbox. Or representative's name if applicable. That way you're figuring out very quickly if they're unrepresented. But if they if they say to you, I'm being represented, you want to know by whom. Why? So you can call it their bluff. Because you might say, hey, and anyone that's hosting an open house knows, if you ask them, hey, are you working with someone? They'll say, oh yeah, we're working with someone, which basically means I'm just looking, leave me alone. Or, I don't, and that's fine. You just want to call their bluff and know if they are represented, who is the representative, because they should have that name. And you can innocently explain that there's a new requirement, August 17th, that where's their representative? If that person's not there, why aren't they there? This right here is plenty of information for you to find a way, find something that they will say or do in this limited, just literally 4 different data fields where you can make a conversation that will lead into your presentation and win them over. And so that's why I would put something like this, because I know that all I need to do is whatever they put in here is going to be used for me to give them a backstory or ask for this or that, or ask them where their agent's name is, or whatever it is. It's going to lead into something that I've already designed where if the visitor says this, I will say this. If the visitor says this, I will say that. And that's it. You're just collecting information to formulate a pitch, a presentation, and win them over, because you're going to have a lot more valuable open house visitors after the settlement goes into effect. So that's it. The form, very simple. Use it if you want. I personally don't see a benefit. I do not think there's any. I've read the settlement. I've skimmed through it multiple times. I don't see any reason why you must have something that states the obvious. No one's going to kick in the door and accuse you of representing that visitor that's in there. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thank you for watching.